mentioned that they need to keep in mind that hyperautomation and automation fabric are kind of the same. So whenever they hear these terms, think of the same, which is putting together technologies to power up instead of using just one, and to strategically think about how they want to streamline their business. And last but not least, keep in mind that hyperautomation is right now essential to be able to prepare for the future of work.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Engatica's interview series. I'm your host Nimilika and we're really glad to have you join us today. Today we have Cristina Duta, Director of Intelligent Automation at AECOM on the show. Welcome, Cristina.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. The Engatica interview series is a powerhouse of insights from industry experts and influencers from around the world. A platform that provides the latest news on AI, automation, and technologies that will help you grow your business. Come, be a part of our community, learn, share, and grow with us. Cristina, because you're the Director of Intelligent Automation, I have one interesting question for you. What is the evolution of automation?
So we're right now at the end of 2022, right? So automation is no longer what we used to call a long-term vision. It's actually right now widely spread across all of the industries because the pandemic has accelerated that for us and the rate of digital transformation across the companies. But if we were to go back into time, it's actually starting 3 centuries ago. That's how I like to see the evolution. It started with the industry revolution. So when we looked at, let's say, how the industries and manufacturing operate back then, that's when it all started. And then in 2016, we had a new, let's say, boom, which was the Industry 4.0, where the focus was on digital transformation and the first tools were used in terms of automating and making processes more efficient. And then later on, it came to the idea of using artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing. And in the end, it reached the state of hyperautomation. And when we talk actually about hyperautomation, this started as a buzzword, and it was coined by Gartner in 2019 when he decided to put it on the top 10 strategic technologies trends in 2020. So while we were working through that, it's more about combining different emerging technologies, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, OCR, and other cognitive capabilities, in the sense of automating an end-to-end process and not just focusing on task automation. So it's probably from the smallest idea, and now it's evolving into what we call a hyper-automation or an automation fabric.
Beautiful. So there are many different kinds, like you mentioned, there's RPA, then there's intelligent automation, now there's hyper-automation. Which one should I use? Which one should businesses use? What is the general rule of thumb?
At the moment the term was actually invented, Gartner put in place a roadmap. How do you reach hyperautomation? How do you get there? And he mentioned that the first step is to look into simple automation, task automation. And for that, you would use RPA and then migrate towards the idea of process automation. And then you can include different other techniques such as chatbots, virtual assistants, and later on reach the business operations where you add intelligence to actually carry out the process efficiently. But I always suggest to people before jumping into technologies to go back and understand what is their strategy, what are the business objectives and the problems that they are trying to solve. And after they have that clarity, understand their current state. Starting from your current state, then you can see if you're at the right spot of, let's say, embracing these technologies, or you need to first do maybe other improvements and then go into the space of RPA, automation, intelligent automation. So all in all, it's about the use cases and the business process maturity that you have, the data that you have to be able to build business insights from it. And last but not least, what kind of tools are you going to use to cover those gaps and to optimize your processes?
Yes. So a business, maybe if it is a large scale business, it might be using all of these together. It's not that it uses only one kind of automation.
Definitely. And that's the purpose of the hyper automation, putting them all together as a powerhouse instead of using one single system that is going to do that for you.
Yeah. And if you pinpoint to one kind of automation, say intelligent automation, can you elaborate on why businesses turn towards it?
I would say it's all related to cost, but it's not necessarily true. Right now, it is an imperative. So for companies to stay relevant on the market, they need to shift their focus and figure a way of actually adapting their traditional approaches to new business models and new operation models. So that's why they turn to intelligent automation, because it's a way of them connecting the people, the process, the technology to deliver outcomes. And at the same time, it's making them control the outcomes that they desire, empowering the people because they're changing the way that the people work. And at the same time, they're delivering efficiencies, they're delivering productivity. So they're also touching that part, which is making them more agile as an organization.
Yeah. So intelligent automation might be using a lot of machine learning, deep learning models, right?
For sure. Most of the companies are using that, especially when it comes to complex processes.
Okay. So what are the side effects of having intelligent automation? Are there any downsides of it?
There are always challenges, not necessarily downsides. It depends on the way you're building it from the beginning. If you're doing automation for the sake of just doing automation and not have a strategy at the forefront, you're going to make everything fail because you don't know exactly what you're trying to achieve. What are your outcomes? What do you want to do when you're going to implement intelligent automation? That's one of the key challenges. Another one is related to how do you actually decide which is the best way to apply intelligent automation. There is the idea of making sure you define smart objectives that you can measure, define the KPIs, and define how you're going to prove the value that this is actually something that's worth investing in moving ahead.
That is wonderful. So when a business is using intelligent automation, there's an end user of the business. So that end user might have a confusion. Take chatbots, for example. So if there's a chatbot and I'm an end user, I might think, who am I talking to? Is it a human? Is it a chatbot? I might get confused. So the business is in a dilemma. Should the chatbot act like human? Or should I get rid of the chatbot and just have a bunch of human beings just messaging, you know, frantically to all the end users? So how does this problem get solved? Where do we strike a balance?
It depends. It depends on where it is the chatbot placed and if the type of interactions are simplistic or not. It is all about the customer experience and their end user experience. If they understand that there is something else at the end that's not able to respond to their needs, they are going to get frustrated and not use that particular technology again. So you're actually increasing the risk of adoption when it comes to chatbots. And to be able to, let's say, strike a balance at a certain point in the decision and the building flow of the chatbot, you need to specify when it's going to reach a human agent, right? Where is the point where you actually transfer it to a human agent? What is the capabilities? But at the same time, you should be able to invest more and train your algorithms to be able to understand better these type of complex requests that are coming from end users. So it depends exactly on where do you position the chatbot and how do you want to deliver the experience back to the end user.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Can you give me a few examples, use cases where intelligent automation is used apart from chatbots?
Use cases, there are a lot. Let's give some examples maybe per industry because it's easier for people to assimilate per industry. And to give one particular example that comes to my mind is related to, let's say, healthcare, right? We're talking about making appointments to the doctors, onboarding patients, discharging patients. So all of that is done with the help of automation, with a combination of technologies. It's not just RPA. So you also need to put a chatbot that's going to provide the input data for the RPA and the rest. I'm also thinking, let's say in insurance, if you need to process a claim and if you have certain information, you can have an intelligent automation solution that's doing the entire processing, the validation, the background checks, making sure there is no fraud, and in the end, actually delivering something. One other example that I usually relate to is that if you recall in the past, when you were to, let's say, get a credit card, a lot of time was spent in actually getting that. So right now in the banking, a lot of people have implemented the validation and the card application process using intelligent automation. So right now it does the background check if the person has anything that strikes as a risk. They also check the personal IDs and put all of that together. And in the end, you get a credit card probably like in a couple of hours, which is a huge difference from what it was originally done. And then you can think about the ones that are maybe common ones. Finance, everything related to finance, all companies, regardless of the industries, have them. So we're thinking about how do we process the finance documents in different business areas? How do we ensure, let's say, document digitalization, because people are still using this? How do we actually ensure customer service? And we have a lot of what you also mentioned, like the chatbots in different service locations. And last but not least, for instance, in HR, when you onboard a person, when you offboard a person, when we're talking about time off, when we're talking about expenses, when we're talking about salary, all of these are use cases and potential opportunities for intelligent automation.
And before we end our conversation, do you have any other sound bites you would like to share with our audience?
I do want to mention that they need to keep in mind that hyperautomation and automation fabric are kind of the same. So whenever they hear these terms, think of the same, which is putting together technologies to power up instead of using just one, and to strategically think about how they want to streamline their business. And last but not least, keep in mind that hyperautomation is right now essential to be able to prepare for the future of work.
Yeah, that was so crisp and to the point. Thank you so much. And I hope businesses do follow this and become successful in whatever they want to achieve.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your valuable time and your insights. For more content, subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders from around the world. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you with a new expert soon.